I'm Prolific, and I'm going to talk you through how we do a winch drill video on the boat. So this video is partly for sea staff that are running the drill, so that everyone's kind of using the same words and techniques, and partly for people who are coming on the boat, if you want to kind of look ahead and kind of be prepared for what you're, like one of the things you're going to learn about on the boat. So people use different ropes when they're doing the winch drills. I really like to use the backstay. That's because I can actually winch it quite tight, I can get a lot of load on, and I can really demonstrate the loads the winches deal with, and what it's actually like to be winching this tight. And I'm not damaging a sail or anything as I'm doing that, so this is a good rope to use. Cool, so I'm going to start the winch drill now. Cool, so we have lots of winches aboard Prolific. So there's 6 up here by the main mast, there's 2 by the mizzen and 1 at the back, and we're going to use them all the time when we're doing essentially anything involving the sails, involving the booms and those kind of big loads, because we deal with huge loads on this boat that we wouldn't be able to deal with by hand. So all the winches spin around, and you can hear that ticking as it spins, and that's going around clockwise, but it won't spin anti-clockwise. So when I come to my winch, the first thing that's really important is that I load my rope up the right way around. So I'm going to pick up my rope, and I'm going to pick up the bit near what's doing the job. I don't need to use the end, because then I'm just going to have to pull loads of slack through. So I'm finding the bit of rope that I'm actually working with, and I'm going to wrap it twice around the winch, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull it a little bit so it's ticking, and you can check that you've put it around the right way. If it's ever not ticking, you've probably put it the wrong way around. And I want to make at least 2 turns. So sometimes if I was holding the rope here, for example, although I've put 2 turns around this side, there's only 1 on this side. So if I was holding it there, I just want to put another turn like that, so there's 2 everywhere. So I've got at least 2 turns around my drum, and now I'm going to pull all the slack in. But when we're working with winches, there's kind of 3 rules that we always follow. So the first rule is pinkies towards the winch. So I'm holding my hands this way around like I'm holding a microphone, rather than my thumbs towards the winch. And the reason for that is if my hand did get sucked in towards the winch, a fist should bounce off. That's fairly safe, my fist should be alright. If I'm holding it that way around, my thumb can get pinched in there, which is a really bad day. So I'm always going to hold them pinkies too. The next rule is that I hold this rope flat. If you're holding it really high, you can get turns popping off the top, so it's really important that I'm holding it flat. And the last rule is that I'm keeping the tension, so I'm not holding it really slack like this, because if there's a load of load on that, then it could pull through and it can snatch. So unless I'm specifically easing, I'm always going to be keeping the tension. Cool. So that's my 3 rules. So I'm pulling in a load of the slack, and you might find it easier to kneel down to keep this rope flat. And once I've got all that slack in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up the winch with a few more turns. Now, depending on what I've done, I might have pulled a sail up here, so there might be a lot of load on this rope, so it's really important that I'm following my 3 rules. And the best way to do that, I find, is to stand up so you can reach over the winch, you can reach around all sides of the winch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it in my right hand, and I'm going to punch past the winch, and then sliding my hand down the rope. And I'm keeping my elbow towards the winch, and my arm about an elbow's width, an arm's length away from the winch. So I'm punching past, and I'm sliding my hand down that rope. If I do need to push the turns down, I'm always going to do it with the palm of my hand. I'm never sticking fingers in between there. Cool. So what I want now is at least 4 turns around the winch, which I've got here, and then I'm going to go into the teeth. Now to go into the teeth, I always have to follow up the lip, which is this bit here. So I pass my rope up the lip, and again punch and slide through the teeth. And if I just give it a little tug, you might have seen that it just slots into the teeth a little bit better. Now the teeth kind of hold the load and should help it just prevent it slipping out. So what I can now do is put this rope under a load more load, which I'm not going to be able to do by hand. So what I need now is a friend with a winch handle. Cool, so Caitlin's holding the winch handle, and you should notice she's holding it by this arm. If she held it by the handle bit, it would swing around, which is quite dangerous. So she's going to hold it by the arm, and she's going to pop it in by squeezing the red button and making sure it's in properly. So you can now winch, and the winch handle's got 2 speeds, so a bit like it is on the bike. So this way is going faster, it's doing more but it's a bit harder, and then that way is a little bit easier, but doing stuff more slowly. So depending on the job, you might go one way or the other, or might start hard and then go to the easy way. Cool. Nice. And then once we've winched that enough, you're going to take it out again by squeezing the red bit, and you're going to make sure we put it straight away back into the winch pedestal or wherever it lives, so that it's not going to fly around the deck. Cool. So there's now a lot of load on this rope, so what I'm going to need to do is just be super sure that it's not going to slip out by accident. So the teeth are kind of holding the tension, but if someone were to walk past and knock this out the teeth, that could release a lot of tension really quickly. So what I'm going to do is just loosely, I'm going to put 2 more turns around the drum. Those are called safety turns. And I've made sure before doing that my turn through the teeth is complete. So I've got a little cross over the lip, somewhere there. Cool, so this is now loaded up. I put my safety turns on, and I can leave that. That is now safe. I can go away, have my lunch, whatever. Happy days. Any questions so far? Cool. So we've loaded our winch up, but now we've changed our mind. We're going to drop our sail. We're going to ease it out, whatever the job is. We're going to take the load, or at least some of the load, off of this rope. So remember, there's a lot of tension on here, so it's really important that I'm working carefully. I'm following my 3 rules again, so I'm keeping pinkies to the winch. As I start to take it out the teeth, I'm going to again be taking the kind of load of this rope. Obviously it's reduced load, but it's really important in keeping tension. So as I start taking it out the teeth, I really need to make sure that I'm keeping this tight and flat. What people love to do is this, and they're just reaching round, but you've got this fold here, so you're not keeping that taut, and that could come out and snatch a bit. So what I'm going to do is when I get to that point where I feel like I'm going to be folding back on itself, I just pause and I put my other hand on. Again, pinkies too, like so. Again, pause, other hand on, and take it off. And that way I can keep that tension the whole time. Cool. So now I've taken it out the teeth, I've got about 4 turns on, and what I'm going to do is something called little eases. So I'm not going to take any more turns off yet. I'm going to keep my right hand on the rope, pinkies too, and my left hand is going to come on the drum. Now it's important that I'm using a flat hand. I'm not sticking my fingers between the ropes, I've just got a flat hand. And I'm going to put a little bit of slack in with my right hand and pull towards me with my left hand. And that tension is slowly releasing. Cool. So I've released that, and now what I'm going to do, because I want to ease a little bit faster and there's not as much load on this rope anymore, is I'm going to go to big eases. Now for big eases we probably need 2 or 3 turns on the winch. So again I'm going to take these off really carefully. So I'm keeping the tension, keeping my pinkies towards the winch, and keeping the rope flat. Could you give that a pull, Caitlin? Cool, so now I'm going to do big eases, and I'm standing a little bit further away from the winch, still keeping this rope flat, that's really important, and I'm feeding it towards the winch. Come back with your pinkies too. So I'm feeding the rope towards the winch and I'm moving my hands back like that. So I'm not just letting it run through my hands, I'm moving it forwards. And if Caitlin pulls on that with all her body weight, I can hold her with 2 fingers. And that is why we use a winch. So I'm totally in control. I can ease it out, and then once it goes slack, so Caitlin, if you drop that, once it goes slack, I've checked there's no load on it. I'm not expecting it to load up again when there's like a gust of wind or whatever. So I'm happy that I can take these turns off and finish off there. Any questions? Cool, so that's the winch drill that I would give probably as first mate at the start of a voyage. And then what we get people to do generally with their watch leaders is to have a practice, so everyone gets a go and you can rotate people around having a go at doing the actual rope work, and then someone else winching, and a few other people kind of being the wind or whatever, like Caitlin's doing, pulling on the rope. And that way we really get people to practice. And it's really important at the start of the voyage that you're kind of picking up on things that people aren't doing right, so you can build those habits. Things like pinkies too, people really struggle with. So just building those habits and getting them early on is really good. and if everyone can use kind of the same language and the same instructions, that makes everyone's lives a bit easier and a bit simpler. Thank you. Thank you, Caitlin. So long.